Hi, my name is Melissa, and this is my persuasive speech. Let's take a listen at some of these statistics. According to the Huffington Post, 4,774,000 women experience domestic violence in every year. 1 in 4 women will be victimized in their lifetime. 8 million are the number of days that women miss due to domestic violence. $948 is the average cost for emergency care. 10 million children are exposed to domestic violence every year. 70 times more likely a woman is to be murdered or attacked again within weeks after leaving their partner. Being that I was a victim of domestic abuse, this is very personal to me. And what I'm proposing is that we have a 72-hour mandatory hold for assailants of domestic abuse. During my process, I became very close with Sergeant Jamie Moss of Columbia County. So in this interview I had with him, he states that many that are bonded out, many men that are arrested for domestic violence are bonded out within hours of being arrested. And this robs the victim of much needed time to gain their composure, to accomplish important tasks like any court services offered, like TPOs, or those are temporary protective orders, seeking medical evaluations, counseling, receiving shelter for maybe themselves or their children. So the importance of having a 72-hour hold on these assailants gives the time for these very life-saving changes that these women need to undergo. Victims and family members, even the abusers, we all acknowledge that, okay, this could be unfair for the attacker. Their jobs could be in jeopardy for being in a 72-hour jail hold. Then others may express problems that the children may face because now, say, daddy or the significant other is gone. Explanation of to where he may or may not be given in any circumstance. This could be career damaging to the to the abuser. However, what we fail to recognize is it's the victim that's actually hurting. It's the victim. They were the one that were attacked. We need to be focusing on the victim. During my interview with Jamie, he noted that while these are valid arguments, for the 72 hours seeming a little lengthy part of time, it's the victim that experiences a lot of emotional waves. We're angry, that we're guilty, we don't want to press charges, that we do want to press charges. We're confused, and then we feel guilty because a lot of times this could be the father of the children involved. I know in my case it was a very hard decision to make that phone call, but I had to make a stand. A lot of times the statistics of being stalked or injured again after an abuser has been thrown in jail is very real. I experienced that myself, of trying to get my children and my things out of the house, and I was being stalked, and he kept riding by the house, so I had to have police escorts. Had I had that 72-hour mandatory hold on him, I would have been able to get these things out, without having to worry of him coming after me again. Let's see, we say it's to see why it is difficult for the victim to process why they were assaulted by their loved one. The responsibility as a community as a whole is to end domestic violence. When did concern revolve around the aggressor? When is the victim that is injured physically, psychologically, and emotionally? Having the mandatory holds helps give the victim time to absorb what happened and to make decisions without feeling pressure that the assailant will return in a matter of hours. As said before, these are the restraining orders or the temporary orders. I actually got one on my husband, and actually it was a no contact as well. The TPO has 3 parts. It's the restraining order, a temporary custody order for for them to pay child support. And it's a temporary custody order for the children as well. The initial TPO is only effective for 30 days, but it can be extended if needed. The TPO will prevent, of course it is just a piece of paper, but it is to prevent that aggressor from coming back towards the victim. It is to give the victim some space and time needed to heal and to move on, or to seek shelter, or whatever the situation may need. So with the mandatory holding time, this will help the victim have plenty of time to go and get this temporary order, and then try to prevent that second attack. The mandatory holding before a bond can be placed allows the victim to press necessary charges and able to start the process of getting out of an abusive relationship. And if there are children involved, to try to end the cycle of domestic abuse. The victim can start with psychological help and medical evaluations. The point can be made that 72 hours is not sufficient time for the victim to heal. And while this is true, the starting process of healing, we have to begin somewhere. And if you're given the 72 hours hold, then the victims can start that process and get information needed to start healing in all ways possible. While recovery is slow and can take months and even years, the victim being hit even for the first time needs to have access to counselors to start a healing process. So even if you've been only hit just the one time, or you've been beaten on several times, it doesn't matter. You still have to start somewhere and and being able to start with this mandatory hold. It is extremely important for these victims. I've done another speech where recognizing signs of physical abuse. It's not always physical. It can be snarky remarks, constant put downs, isolation, financially. A lot of people can't leave, women can't leave because of financial reasons. That personally was one of mine. I was a stay-at-home mom. There's no way I could leave. But through Jamie, and then through this organization of Safe Homes, I was able to be set up in a way, and they set me up in a place to where I was able to move out and help me get a job. With the mandatory hold in place, victims can safely return home to pack necessary items like clothes and toiletries. Sometimes we can, as I stated before, we cannot return home for fear that the abuser may return. And if the abuser is only in jail for a couple hours, the victim tends to feel very stressed and overwhelmed and not know what to do. And so with this 72-hour hold, this will give us time to, or give victims time to start processing. Processing and healing is very important for these victims. The National Coalition Against Domestic Abuse reports that the cost of domestic violence exceeds $8.3 billion a year. And while this includes a plethora of avenues such as ambulance, medical, and police work, one can understand that with this amount of expense, it's difficult for the police to escort every victim to their place of residence. I had a police escort, but he could only stay for like 10 minutes, and I'd have to have another one on standby because of the cost of that. So with that mandatory hold, this alleviates the police to be able to go take care of other things instead of, standing in my driveway to make sure that, my stalker abuser husband wasn't coming back to harm me. Fortunately for victims in Augusta, Georgia, there is a place called Safe Homes. It's a nonprofit organization, and it assists with thousands of domestic victims, violence victims every year. Sergeant Jamie Moss is the vice president of Safe Homes of Augusta as well. And he explains that the purpose of Safe Homes is providing housing at a private locations for both the women and children, offering free counseling and support groups for children and adults. And they also assist with job placement, and I can vouch for them as they did these things for me. Safe Home also has transportation and tutoring, so they can start teaching victims life skills. Some of them may have been just stay-at-home moms, as I was, may not really have life skills. So Safe Homes will set these people up with this. It is a safe environment. Everything is confidential, so no one knows where you're at or what you're doing or who you're talking to. You have safe words. It really is a great program. And for a victim to be able to have that 72-hour hold and be able to go to, and the Cumbie Center is also one in Aiken, and they do the same thing. But with a 72-hour hold, this allows the victim to get to these places and gets these processes started. So in conclusion, while domestic violence has different faces and colors, most can identify with the physical aspect of abuse. But understanding the psychological mayhem inflicted on these victims is pertinent to understanding the importance on why the 72-hour hold for aggressors must stand. While there is acknowledgement of the possible unfairness to the aggressor, it's the community's responsibility to take care of the victims in domestic violence. The Bible even states in John 15:17, "This is my command to you, love one another." Many victims of domestic violence have been destroyed by emotional and psychological abuse that they tend to make excuses and not prosecute the offender. That fortunately is where the nonprofit organization of Safe Homes originated. They offer assistance to the domestic victims in every way possible. In order for victims to feel more safe, secure, and comprehend events that led up to the violent act, the mandatory holding period is crucial for victim survival. So, in conclusion, I believe that the 72-hour hold is mandatory. It is crucial. I myself personally would have felt so much safer if I was given that 72-hour, knowing that he was in jail while I was trying to get things taken care of. I was actually attacked again because I didn't have a 72-hour hold. He actually pulled me over in the truck. So while transporting, I would have been able to get things taken care of had there been that 72-hour